All right. Okay, what's up, man? Cryptoblood, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for everything that you do, for real, man. I follow about, I'd say, 30 to 50% of your videos, and I look at all the headlines of your videos. I think that your shit's super relevant for the crypto space. For real, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. It's a big deal. And the fact that you do it in a way that's so much fun, like I get to listen to hip hop and I get to experience a connection with someone that I see as authentic and real and like on my level, while learning and helping, onboard the new generation into what we call the crypto space is amazing, man. It's really cool to see. What an interesting time we get to live in, to be able to do all this shit. And what an interesting time that I get to just, jump on a video and then I get to send this to you from, a different place in the world, and we get to really interact and create something from it. So I just wanted to start off with saying that. Now, this video, the intention of this whole thing here, the reason being that it has to do with C60. I will be jumping around a little bit because it's authentic and candid, and I'm just going to share I'm going to be sharing, what I think is important. I'm going to be weaving in the story of how this all came to be. I took some notes, and these notes are to not only to keep me on track, but just to make sure that there's some of the key points that I wanted to share that I'm really, I'm going to share in this video, and I don't miss big parts of it. So with that said, without further ado, let's just fucking move right through it, right? So why am I contacting you specifically? That's a hard question. At the same time, it's a very profound question. I think that it has to do, it's a feeling thing. Like, I'm not tactical as much as I am authentic in my approach. And I think that for me, C60, my journey through C60 started with Cliff High. I was introduced to C60 through his document and then his talks. And then from there, I did a lot of my own research. I saw that you've been involved in the sense that, like, you've been getting the bottles to your show, and you've talked to Cliff about this stuff. I contacted Cliff in 2018, mid 2018, with some of the stuff that I'd been working on, and I'm going to get to that in this video. And when I asked him, like, how do you feel about, like, being a part of helping further along the momentum of human adoption, he's like, I don't give a fuck. I've given my part to the world, which is the exposure, and and he's all down with it, but he's just like, he has no interest in moving that needle when it comes to the adoption. So I did contact him and asked him about it. I've contacted Kenneth from Purple Power back in the past and asked if we could have a conversation about some of the stuff that I have to say and that I want to share, but I've held off. Main reason being that I don't know him. Even though I've seen a little bit of his content, I don't really know what his true intentions are. And for me, I'm always a little bit more apprehensive in what I want to share and who I want to align myself with if I don't know where their values lie. And I think that topic of psychographics, when it comes to sharing to an audience, is really, really important to hit on. Is what do they believe? What does your audience believe, or who do the people that you align yourself with believe as their core values and as their principles? And so to kind of wrap that up, that's the reason I'm hitting you first, is because you have a great channel, and through that channel you're able to share your authentic self, your authentic interactions, and what you really give a shit about, and you break it down always at the fundamentals. And I think that that's probably the most important part of what anyone can do ever, is how can you take relevant information, difficult information, things that are valuable to an audience, but always keep it at the fundamental levels of things. Break it down, simple, just like jump shots, So why is this for you? Like, why am I sending this to you? Is because I trust you. Bottom line. In one sentence, I've watched enough of your show to know that you and I are on the same level when it comes to certain core values, when it comes to the fundamentals of things, where our lines where our line in the sand is as to what right and wrong is very similar in what we want to see in the world. So with that said, I feel very comfortable sharing what I'm about to share with you. And if you're not a great fit for this project, I wouldn't even say it's a project yet, it's more of an adventure, it's more of a journey. If you don't feel like this connects with you, and this is just a cool video that you get to watch and get a little bit about, how I work and who I am, then great. And we can go our separate ways, and in the future, who knows what will happen, right? But my intention here is to give you enough information to get perhaps your wheels turning as to how you would want to structure your end of this agreement, if there ever to be an agreement on this. All right. So that's that. I mentioned Kenneth already. And so, I don't want to reach out to these companies just yet with what I'm about to tell you. I think that, and you might share something with them. I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm doing this for you. Whatever wants to happen from this video can happen. Now, a little bit about me. I'm a Canadian, as I mentioned. I'm an explorer. I used to be a guide in the mountains. I grew up after my schooling up in British Columbia, adventuring, very much outdoorsy, very much taking people's lives into my hands and taking them into some pretty crazy terrain. That led to meeting getting into a relationship that took me to the States. Then when I left that, I went over to Thailand. Studied Muay Thai and meditation, came back. Then I got into a little bit more into I was seeking, right? I was searching. So I got more into the yoga thing and just the spiritual aspect of our existence. I moved to Nicaragua, and then we were still partying pretty hard, but in the first few months, I was able to get away from that very easily, and then started surfing way more. I started surfing like crazy. Back into yoga and teaching a lot, studying and practicing, a lot of things surrounding that space. And then we bought property. Me and a friend of mine bought property and started building a farm for the future. In my mind, it was like, okay, well, if things go the way that I kind of see them going, food's going to be really important. Good food, fundamental practices on how to grow food. I want to be an example for that. I want to show that someone who never had any experience really getting into true farming at the deeper level, how can they build a whole farm out? So I'm rambling, I'm sorry. But that's where that whole space went. Then I started to also believe in myself a lot more and to see my own potential and see that I could create a lot more than I thought I could. And so that resistance has been really an interesting challenge, where it's I know I can do a lot, I have a lot of potential, and then I put myself in situations where I'm outside my comfort zone, I'm outside my reach, and then things kind of fall apart, and then I have to pick it back up from that point and build and build and build. And through that process of constantly pushing and failing and going, I've been able to do some really interesting things. One is be accepted, and now working with a community called Summit Series, or if you look on Instagram, it's just it's just Summit actually, but the website is summit.co. They've been an amazing community of people that have been able to help me to reach and communicate with such an interesting, dynamic group of people from all over the world. It's one of the most fascinating communities, if not, one could argue it's the most fascinating and needle-moving community in the world. Also, baby bathwater is another one if you're Googling these things. But all to say that the people I've been able to meet have really helped me see that there's a lot we can do. And so I've met Peter Diamandis, the founder of X Prize Foundation, and this is the same guy who funded Virgin Galactic rocket. He funded Paul Stamets fungi perfecti research. And so through him and through a bunch of other people, the person that I met that really interests me the most and to help me with the journey of C60 is a gentleman and a good dear friend of mine who I think is an amazing man. His name is Lee Stein. Lee Stein is the benefactor of X Prize, Carbon. That's important to know, Carbon. he was one of the guys, I don't know exactly the details and I don't want to misquote, but essentially he was one of the guys who helped create the payment systems for the internet. And so he's done some cool shit. And so he's kind of taken me under his wing a little bit and helped me through the process. And I told him about this stuff a little while back, and I'm friends with his son. And so last summer, I went to an event in Croatia, and then from there, I decided that that would be the perfect time. I hadn't even thought about this before, but I went all the way to Europe and then thought of this. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go find the guy who did the toxicity research for C60 because it's so important to me. Maybe I can, be of value there. So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if you're familiar or not, but his name is Professor Fatih Musa. And he had one video out on YouTube that wasn't made by him. It was made by some kid who came to interview him, and he was actually kind of pissed about it. He didn't like the fact that someone had put out his content without his permission. But it led me to him. It led, hundreds, if not thousands of people to understanding a little bit more about C60. So I fly into France, not knowing this guy, not knowing where he is, never talked to him. I go see a friend in southern France, and from there I pick up the phone and I start figuring this out, and I know which university he works at, and in less than 24 hours I was able to talk to him. I was able to get a meeting with him, and so now the next move was to fly to Paris, right? So I go to Paris. First day there, I'm only there for like 2 days. One night I go meet with him. We go to a restaurant, we talk, he tells me the whole story, or as much as he can about the story in a short amount of time. And, I tell him about myself and my history and why I'm there, which is to help. I'm there to understand the situation. And if there's something that is of value here, how can I help you, Fatih, bring this to the next level? And so what essentially happened, he's told me that there's really, he's okay, here's where we get specific. Without giving, I have to be careful because I'm under NDA, so I can't share everything. But I'm just gonna step with precautions as to what I'm gonna share, because this video will be online, and if it does get out, or if you were to share it or something, I have to just be sure that I don't say something that I have agreed to not share. So there is a law firm here in the US who has since 2004 taken on patent applications for C60 method patents. Some things have happened over the course of the years where some of the claims have been dropped, some new claims have been added, and this thing is still alive, very much alive. And when I say this thing is very much alive, I'm talking about a method patent that claims life prolongation. Essentially the claim is prolonging life in mammals with the use of C60 with very specific techniques and models. And so we're going through that now. Now, unfortunately, Fatih is not a business guy, nor is he connected in the US. He chose a law firm that was probably about par when it comes to this stuff. He worked through this through many years. And he's kind of at the end of his rope when it comes to this specific law firm. And so when I came into the picture, I said, what do you need? He says, I need someone in the US, I need someone in America to help me move this patent along. And I said, no problem. When I said no problem, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. But like anything, like everything I've done in life, when I commit to something, we just go figure it out, right? So I get back, I start doing my own research, I start contacting the people that I thought could help, and really pushing for this over the last 24 months. And so now we're back to the story of Lee Stein and where this interacts with C60. So like, as I mentioned, Lee Stein is the benefactor of the X Prize carbon. So he has a lot of he knows a lot of the right people and a lot of the right strategies as to how to get any carbon related product or project really from almost no energy to probably the most momentum you can have on the planet. And so he told me this, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is essentially where we're at. He says, I'm going to help you. I believe in you. I like your attitude. I like how diligent you are in your approaches to things. And if this is important to you, I'm going to help you. I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm going to make the introductions that you need to see if this is the real deal. So that got me super fired up. This is last year. From there, he put me in contact with Brinks, Gibson and Leon, the best patent attorney office in the US, if not the world. They're taking care of X Prize. They're the guys who handle X Prize. And he tells me this. He says, if you go to them and you talk to, I'll leave the names out, and they say that there's something here, and there's enough there that they believe that we can do something with this, X Prize Carbon will fund it. So then my challenge, I was super excited. Like at that point, I'm like, this is a win. This is amazing. Like, fuck, we're moving, man. We're really fucking moving. And, but like all interesting and amazing journeys, it has its bumps and its challenges, and you don't foresee all these challenges. So I didn't really foresee this next challenge. The biggest thing then was to go back to Fatih and be like, yo, I've got it. I've got the guy. We just have to pay, X amount. And essentially we're going to know, we're going to know whether or not we've got something here that's left because the concern was the fact that because there was already claims that were made through the method patent application, reclaiming the same things after the time frame had been dropped, you can't do that. You can't reclaim stuff that's already prior knowledge or prior art or have been, what's the right word? I'm forgetting, but like you're sharing it with the world. You can't claim that shit afterwards. So that's still and is the big issue with the C60 thing in the patents. It's not so much that it doesn't work, it's the fact that things have been claimed before, and now we're fighting the fact that no, those things have not been claimed in this specific way, and this is why these methods are unique and should be, able to be patented. So that's the gist of it. And so I told this to their law firm, and they're like, well, we need to see everything. I'm like, okay, great. So I turned back to Fatih and said, this is what's going on. You've asked me to do some work for you. I've taken it to the best people, and not only taken it to them, they've agreed, and I've got the relationships to really move the needle on this. We just need to pay the upfront costs so that they can look at everything and they'll tell us yay or nay. And so by yay or nay, like that's the best thing that could happen, right? So we spend a little bit of money. We either know that we're dead in the water and we stop all funding towards patent applications, or with that same funding, we now get a green light towards being funded by X Prize. But he didn't see it that way. That's my point of steering it right there. He was like, well, why would we do that? I've already paid these lawyers and they're telling me this. And so that's where I got to experience, the narrow-minded scientific syndrome of some kind where he just didn't get it. He didn't understand that this was the way to go. And so he wanted to stay. He's like, I've already paid lawyers. I'm not going through this again. I'm not paying more money. So that was by far my biggest challenge for a long time. It was like, I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to stick with this guy and help him, and we'll see where this all goes. Like, I'm not tied to the results. I just want to see if we can take C60 to like this whole other level. And then long story short, his current lawyers out of the US have just not been the best to him. They have not only not done great work, but the relationship is dissolving. And finally, in the last few months, he's like, you know what, I think we should consider your idea. I'm like, yeah, no, duh. So now we're at the point where I've got my next conversation with Lee is coming up in June. When it comes to the lawyers when it comes to Brinks, Gibson, and Leon here out of the US who may take on this claim, they're going to be giving me a price tag on the initial costs to look at everything. The goal is to obviously win. The goal is to find something in these U.S. method patent claims that is feasible and can be won, and then through that develop a company that holds the licensing rights to whatever comes out of it. And that could be a split or a shared environment with XPRIZE, or perhaps we keep the entire licensing. I don't know what's going to happen with all that. I don't know. That's not the point. So you kind of get an idea. I've painted a bit of a picture as to where things are. The reality is that in the next weeks, there's going to be some money to give. We're going to be paying these new lawyers to look over everything, and they're going to give us that answer. Now, what I want to do is I want to get someone who believes in this, enough that they're willing to risk a little bit of capital before the answers, and believe in us, right? So, because if I wait till afterwards, where we get the answers and this is an absolute go, then everyone's going to want to throw money at this. And they're not going to care about the reality of the situation. They're not going to care about the product or the momentum of C60 for the betterment of all mammals. Maybe they will. But point being that if I find someone who I trust, who wants to come in on this a little bit beforehand, I know for a fact that they're good to go, because they did not jump in after it was like absolute safe money, right? So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that I'm offering you the opportunity to potentially jump in on board with me and Fatih Musa, the professor who did all the research on toxicity on the rats. I speak for him here in North America. We have not created the entity yet. This is the time. What I'd like to do, if you're interested, because I know that not only do I trust you on the level of your integrity, but I know that you bring a lot of value when it comes to other things like business and computer science and your audience. So what I'm saying is that I'm not talking numbers, but if you're interested, I'd like to create an entity, a limited liability company. Put you in it, put me in it, put Fatih in it. We can talk whatever, we can talk percentages, whatever. It's not the point. The point being that I want to create a core team that holds the information, and perhaps in the near future, the licensing to the method patent. And then from there, we can move forward with XPRIZE carbon. So that's it. That's really just where we're at, and what this is all about is just, I'm now starting the process of taking this to a whole other level. We're coming out of, and the other thing I want to mention is that this might not work. This might not work. We might create the entity, say, hey, we're going to pay these lawyers for these fees. And then they come back and they say, you know what, there's not enough here. There's really not enough here that we can reclaim and hold. With that said, I've read every single document. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But my feeling is that there's a lot there. There's a lot of very specific methods that the patent office seems to think is prior art, which is not. And so there's a lot going on. And so I apologize for kind of ranting a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything really, really important that I need to share with you right now. But I think that's the gist of it. And I'm sure you have some questions. There's a lot of things that I can't share. The specifics of those methods, obviously. But you get the gist of it, man. You get the fact that, all to sum it up, is I think your integrity is on point. I think that you know a lot of things that could be of great value. I think that I can trust you. I think that this is a new chapter for C60, and more than anything, I think that that would be something you might be interested in. It might excite you. And we're going to be looking for a little bit of capital to inject into just some of the costs, which is, you know, legal fees, organizational setup, and then putting you on the board with us. It's an idea. If it doesn't fit your paradigm or your direction, that's cool. You know, I'm just telling you that I'm offering it to. I don't know why I feel that you're the first person I should talk to for this. There's so many amazing people that would be, you know, not negating you. I'm not saying that you're not the shit. I'm just saying for me, like, you're not, you know, we're not homies. You know, we're not super tight, but it feels right. It feels right, and I follow my heart, and I follow these ideas whenever they happen, and that's why I am who I am. And that's why I went to France in the first place. That's why I went to go find this guy, is because it felt right. So this feels right to me, sharing this information and giving you this opportunity. And that's it, man. That's what it comes down to, is just giving you this opportunity and go from there, man. So let's see, did I forget anything? No, that's it. I think we're finally at a time where Fatih realizes that his ideology of playing inside his little worlds needs to kind of be dismantled, and that he needs to let go and to let this thing be steered by the people that get what's going on this over here. Now, I didn't mention this before, and I won't get into details, but there is a lot of momentum happening in other parts of the world, and we're involved, and that's all I'm going to say. So no matter what happens, there's some craziness around the corner and some really interesting things, but this video is about, do you want to be involved in the process of owning the method patent license that allows C60 to claim longevity and the prolongation, is that even a word? Prolonging life is what I'm trying to say, but do you want to be involved with the licensing that involves prolonging life in mammals? And that's it, you know? You might be too busy, I don't know. So thank you. Thanks for your time, for real. I'm glad that you got to see, you know, more importantly, I think that you got to see how I think and how I move through things. And I think that that's really important. I didn't want to just send you a text or an audio. I wanted you to see how I like carry myself in my own thoughts. And that way you can create a judgment and, you know, an opinion based on your own feelings, and not just a rational one, but also a deeper connection with how you really feel about the situation. So that's it. That's all I got. Let me know what you think. You can send me an audio. We can schedule a call. That's what I would prefer, to be honest. We could schedule a WhatsApp call and go from there. All right? Cryptoblood, thank you for what you do, for real. And thanks for taking this time. I'm guessing it was about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your time here. And we'll be in touch. All right? Thank you.